About a month ago, I uploaded a video about who would Batman's first ideal villain be in his career. And at the very least, I intended to make the same type of video for Superman. And if you guys like it enough, I could probably do it for some other characters. The same thing I said about Batman, there is really no right or wrong answer. There are so many different villains you could use for these characters as their starting point, the first villain they ever fight. And even though I'm going to give my opinion on who I think it should be for Superman, I do still think that no matter what you do, however you choose to write a story, it could be anyone. There is no right or wrong answer. But for Superman, I do think that his first ideal villain should be General Zod. Superman does have certain villains in his rogues gallery that you could 100% say, maybe he should start off somewhere a little smaller, maybe start off a little slower, and give him a villain that he doesn't need to essentially strain himself over, because General Zod is basically an evil Superman. Why not start him off with someone like Toyman so he can maybe get his feet wet before he flat out jumps into the pool and has to handle someone like General Zod? And I think that is a completely fair statement, and you're not wrong for thinking that, if anyone is thinking that. The reason I have gone with Zod is because I think it is very important for the beginning years of Superman to identify his Kryptonian heritage and to really discover the ins and outs of what his Kryptonian people are all about. He needs to know the good and he needs to know the bad. If we need Superman to understand and identify with his people, with his world from Krypton, who he inherently is from the conception of his parents, and how that will contrast over into his life on Earth and his adopted parents with John and Martha, I think it is very important to understand that the world he does come from is not just of what he has witnessed with his father in lessons, discussions, teachings within the Fortress of Solitude. He also needs to know that just like Earth, Kryptonian is an imperfect world, which has also had certain people living on it, like General Zod. Obviously, when you pin Superman up against General Zod, you're not playing around with any regular villain. You're now dealing with a character who can do just as much damage, has just enough power as Superman himself. This is not an easy fight, and whenever he needs to fight Zod, there will never be a time where it is an easy fight. Having Zod as his first villain is going to help Superman grow up a lot quicker, because he will not have the time or the ability to sit back and say, I can learn and grow from this. He needs to be able to fight Zod right then and there. And I also think what makes it very interesting about his first real quarrel, his first real villain being Zod, is actually that line from Man of Steel. And I am paraphrasing here, but Zod is essentially trying to say, I am a warrior. I have been fighting for ages. I am one of the best you can find on Krypton. Where did you train? On a farm? And I think that is what is so fascinating about this first matchup for Superman, because he is going to feel as if he is completely out of his depth, and he might not be able to do this. I also think there is a huge kind of conflicting nature that Kal could hold over himself in this situation. I've recently just become Superman. Most of what I have done so far is maybe stop bank robberies or stop police chases. Now all of a sudden, I have General Zod who has come to Earth, who has everything I have, if not far more, because he's much better trained than I am. How do I deal with this? How do I move forward? As far as Kal is concerned, he has lived his whole life understanding and realizing that Krypton is no more. The only semblance of Krypton even being remotely around is his AI, VI, computer artificially generated father who has some programmed memories of his past life, who tries to teach Cal good values and also the history of Krypton. But other than that, it's completely gone. All of a sudden, in a way, Krypton has now come back, but it's not come back in the way that Cal maybe would have always imagined it would come back. They're not here as friends. They're not here to grow together. They're here as enemies. They are here to take over Earth or destroy Earth in whatever means necessary for Zod to create new Krypton. Also, another very interesting dynamic that Man of Steel offers to you is the fact that Jor-El is telling Cal, look, you are here on Earth now. You can save these people. You have the power to do so. You have the mind to do so. You also have the heart for it. Whereas Zod is saying, help me, Cal. We can bring the glory of our people back. There's a very interesting duality between Jor-El and Zod. Both people in their own ways are trying to fight for the same goal. They're trying to fight for a particular unity and a preservation of a certain civilization. And whereas Jor-El realizes that Krypton is no more, you are the last son of it, being Superman, and you can help humanity, bringing them into heights they never thought they could have achieved before. General Zod is thinking that same way, but not for humanity, for Krypton. And whatever it takes to bring Krypton back, he will do so, even if it means the destruction and the murder of every single person on Earth. And that's not even just so much about Man of Steel. I just think that is, in general, comic book, movie, video game, any medium, a very good example of what these two Kryptonians will have to offer to Kal-El. How Superman is going to make his decision and how he can see the differences of two people from Krypton and what both of them are willing to do to exact their particular goal. And what Superman can learn from this situation is that even though Krypton is gone, does not mean necessarily the essence or the actions of Kryptonian people are gone forever. He is their caretaker. He is the sign to the world or to the wider universe. He carries on the, I guess you could say, good traditions of what Krypton is all about and what the true Krypton meaning actually is, having a savior presence. And then he also learns that just like any other world out there, Krypton was not perfect, especially when you have somebody like General Zod and potentially if he brings around others like Feora or Namek. And he now also understands, my time on Earth, I've seen a lot of good and bad people. And even though I've always wondered what Krypton was and what it was capable of and who was living on this planet, I also realize that with the good of Krypton also comes the bad, and that is where General Zod comes into the picture. Whereas with General Zod, he can't get this idea out of his head that Krypton is a place, and however he must create or inherit that place, he will do so even if it is filled with the utmost of violence. Superman now starts to realize Krypton, in a way, is me. I am continuing the Kryptonian legacy. That is why my father sent me here. And that's why he is called the last son of Krypton. Everything he does is through the actions of the Kryptonian people. Whether he makes the right or wrong decisions, whether he needs to make decisions that are not popular amongst the mass consensus, or whether he needs to make tough decisions he might not even want to make himself. He is capable of doing so. He realizes, like his father would say to him, he has the power, the strength, the mind, and the heart for all of that whereas General Zod does not. And this all comes together into why I think General Zod is such a perfect first villain for Superman. We've laid out exactly why the Kryptonian people are so important to someone like Zod and Jor-El, and what it does mean for Kal-El's legacy. And I think it also goes to show exactly what Superman is supposed to mean. He's not just some character who throws on a blue and red cotton suit and just saves people to save people because he's good and has to be good. We learn that Superman is not just a symbol, but a legend as well. He is a story of how a civilization who destroyed themselves, or however you wish for the Kryptonians to be destroyed, and how one Kryptonian and Kal had such a bright future that in a way could make up the mistakes for old Krypton, bring those lessons over to Earth, and ensure that our people do not follow suit or down the same dangerous path that Krypton once did. Once Superman has dealt with the Kryptonian tyrant in Zod, once Superman truly understands what Krypton is to him and his father, and the symbol of hope and legacy that he carries from his homeworld into the future, he will be much more stable in dealing with future villains than he would have been before this. Being Superman actually has real meaning now, not just for himself, not just for humanity, but also for what it could have meant for his father and Krypton. But there you go, guys. That is my choice for Superman's first ideal villain, and there are all my reasonings to go with it. I will also just throw this in as well. I do think another interesting thing to pin Zod against Superman first as well is because now when he moves forward to other villains, he will now go up against someone like Lex Luthor. And he will, maybe in his own way, underestimate these characters because he might think, I've dealt with someone like Zod, what could a human do to me? And then he encounters someone like Lex and realizes, oh, that's what a human can do to me. Okay, you know what? I should not take this lightly. It would be a great opportunity for Superman to think that he has hit the pinnacle of evil in someone like General Zod. And then as time goes on, he starts to realize that there may be more villainy out there even worse than him, and he should never underestimate some of his villains. That is just my opinion. So of course, let me know in the comments down below who you think Superman's first ideal villain should be. And if you want me to continue with this little mini series, I can do it for other characters. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and until next time, I'll talk to you all very soon.